Hello, I'm Alexandra Harrison of Supporting Child Caregivers, and today I'm going to talk to you about orchid children and dandelion children and what I call racehorse children. Researchers have referred to temperamentally sensitive children as orchid children and children who are more relaxed and daring as dandelion children. These names derive from the challenges of raising orchids, flowers that need tender care, and dandelions that seem to be able to grow anywhere and under any conditions. Racehorses also need special training compared with plow horses. Whether you call sensitive children orchids or racehorses, the meaning is clear. They have to be handled with care, but they can grow up to be beautiful and do great things. Jerome Kagan is famous for his research in temperament, that is, the tendency of an individual to be more or less comfortable with novelty, with new things. Kagan identified a group of 10 to 20% of the normal population as slow to warm up to novelty, to new things, to strange people and experiences. These children are more likely to cling to their mothers when introduced to a new person or invited to play with a new toy. These are the children we call orchid children. Kagan found that he could identify these orchid children even in the womb, for example, by applying a stimulus to the mother's pregnant abdomen and then measuring the heart rate of the fetus. He also found that these children maintained their temperamental characteristics over time, even into adulthood. Well, where do orchid children come from? Generally speaking, temperament is inherited. That means that orchid parents tend to produce orchid children. However, it's not only the genes that are passed on to children. Epigenetic factors are also inherited, and these are molecules that respond to what is going on in the environment. For example, the threat of war or famine or other traumatic circumstances, those can cause a tendency for the individual to have a heightened stress response, and that can be passed on to the individual's children or even grandchildren. As I've said, children's temperament influences the way they react to new experiences, to novelty in the environment. A child's temperament can affect the way she reacts to new people, to new clothes, to new activities. The child's temperament can affect the way she manages transitions. This can be a problem for orchid children because they can be afraid to try new things, and that can get in the way of learning. There's evidence that sensitivity, or what they call reactivity, in infants is caused when a part of the brain called the limbic system is more excitable. There's also evidence that influences in the womb can affect temperament. But inheriting the brain of an orchid child or experiencing stress in the womb does not mean that you have to grow up afraid. There are ways that parents and teachers can help orchid children grow the capacity to take the risks that they need to learn what they need to learn new things. I have 3 guidelines for parents of orchid children. The first is to be curious about your child's behavior. The second is to give your child more time with transitions. And the third is to work to find a balance between protection and promotion in parenting them. I'll tell you about what that means in a minute. Orchid children are wonderful, often interesting and creative, but they are harder to parent. Now let's look at number 1. That is being curious about your child's behavior. If a baby clings to you when he sees a new toy or an unfamiliar animal, if your child doesn't rush to play rough and tumble games with his friends, or if he doesn't easily greet a new person, be curious about what that behavior means. Don't assume that there's something wrong with your child or your baby. Ask yourself, do I have a racehorse to raise? Number 2, if your child has difficulty with transitions, such as getting up and ready in the morning to go to school or going to bed at night, allow more time for him to get ready for school or for bed. Try not to be impatient. Insist that he does what he needs to do, but give him more time to do it. Remember that you may have a racehorse, and he may grow up to win the race. Number 3 is the balance between protection and promotion. That's a challenge for all parents with all children, but it's an even greater challenge for parents of orchid children. By protecting, I mean softening the bumps in the road of life, allowing the child to stay home from a party or speaking for the child when he's greeted by an unfamiliar person. In other words, not insisting that he is so polite all the time in the introduction. By promoting, I mean insisting that the child take risks that he needs to build a strong body and the necessary skills that he needs for life, such as eating healthy foods and engaging in physical activity. How can parents find this balance? Well, first of all, there's not one balance to achieve. Each family must experiment to find the right balance for their family, and since families and especially children are always changing, the trial and error efforts never really end. The ideal to work towards is one in which you choose your battles and support a child in taking health-promoting risks up to a point, then protecting him if he shows that it's too much for him. These caregiving behaviors are always evolving and frequently include corrections or repairs. But corrections and repairs are not something to be afraid of. They're what we learn from. Thank you for watching our Supporting Child Caregivers YouTube video. Next time we will be beginning a series of videos on discipline or setting limits. This is Alexandra Harrison from Supporting Child Caregivers.